The message arrived without ceremony. No grand celestial alignment. No thunder rolling across continents. No apocalyptic sirens. Just a flicker. Every screen on Earth, from rusted gas station TVs to orbital defense grids, cut to black for exactly 3 seconds. Then a shape appeared. Not quite a face. Not quite a machine. Something in between, like geometry had learned to hate. And then it spoke. Civilization of Earth. You have been evaluated. You have 3 planetary rotations to surrender all governing authority, military assets, and orbital space. Compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures extinction. The transmission ended. No static. No lag. No trace. Just silence. For 7 seconds, humanity didn't react. Then the world exploded. Markets crashed before they could even open. Military networks went into overdrive. Religious leaders called it judgment. Politicians called emergency sessions. Conspiracy theorists called it Tuesday. And deep beneath the reinforced granite of an undisclosed mountain facility, the United Earth Defense Council called someone they hadn't used in years. Get him. They found him in a bar that didn't officially exist. Somewhere between Nevada desert and forgotten roads, where the air smelled like dust and old whiskey, and the jukebox hadn't worked since 1998. He was exactly where they expected. Sitting alone. Drinking something amber. Watching nothing. You're hard to reach, the agent said, sliding into the booth. The man didn't look up. That's the point. They made contact. A pause. A slow sip. I figured, the man said. You don't wake up every satellite on the planet unless you're either saying hello or making a threat. They gave us 3 days. That made him smile. Not a hopeful smile. Not a nervous one. A dangerous one. 3 days? He repeated. That's generous. They're not bluffing. No, he said, finally looking up. His eyes were older than his face. They never are. The agent leaned forward. The council wants you back. Immediately. Another pause. Then a quiet chuckle. You people always want me back when it's already too late. It's not too late. The man finished his drink and stood. It's never too late, he said, grabbing his coat. That's the lie we tell ourselves right before everything burns. 42 hours remained. The war room was chaos wrapped in discipline. Generals argued over projections. Scientists threw around probabilities like confetti. Politicians tried to sound in control. No one was. Until he walked in. The room didn't go silent. It tightened. You look worse, one general muttered. And you still look like you trust numbers too much. The man shot back, dropping into a chair at the center table. A holographic projection flickered to life above them. The alien structure, if it could be called that, hung in orbit beyond the moon. Not a ship. Not a fleet. A presence. It didn't move. It didn't need to. They haven't fired a shot, a strategist said. No weapon signatures. No detectable energy buildup. But our deep scans say they could erase us before we blink, the man finished. Yeah. I read the brief. You don't seem concerned. I'm not, he said simply. That earned a few looks. You should be. Someone snapped. He leaned back, folding his arms. Let me ask you something. If you were powerful enough to wipe out a species instantly, would you give them 3 days to surrender? That's psychological warfare, a general replied. No, the man said. That's arrogance. The room shifted. They don't think we're a threat, he continued. They think we're a formality. And you think we are a threat? The strategist asked. The man's smile returned. I think they just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. 30 hours remained. The second transmission came without warning. Same flicker. Same impossible shape. Your silence indicates defiance. This is acceptable. Resistance provides data. Data improves efficiency. This time, The message didn't end immediately. The shape shifted. And for a brief, horrifying moment, the world saw something else. A planet. Not Earth. Cracked open like an egg. Oceans boiling into vapor. Continents collapsing into fire. Then darkness. Example. The entity said calmly. The feed cut. Panic didn't spread. It detonated. Cities clogged with traffic. Military bases locked down. Governments issued statements no one believed. And in the war room, every eye turned to the man. Well? The general demanded. Still think they're bluffing? The man exhaled slowly. No, he said. Now I think they're showing off. Then what do we do? He stood, walking toward the hologram. Studying it. Not with fear. With curiosity. We respond, he said. How? He turned back. With a message. 24 hours remained. For the first time in history, humanity spoke with one voice. Not through a politician. Not through a committee. Through him. The broadcast went out across every channel the aliens had used. No distortions. No filters. Just a man in a plain room, wearing a tired expression and a slight smirk. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. You gave us 3 days, he said. That's cute. No fear. No hesitation. Just irritation. Let me save you some time. He paused. And then he smiled. You won't last 3 seconds. Silence followed. On Earth, people stared in disbelief. In orbit, something changed. The alien structure, silent, unmoving for days, shifted. Just slightly. As if noticing. Inside the war room, alarms screamed. Energy spike! A technician shouted. Massive, off the charts. Is that a weapon? Someone yelled. No, it's... The words died in his throat. Because the data didn't make sense. It wasn't charging. It wasn't targeting. It was thinking. The man watched the readings with quiet satisfaction. Good, he murmured. Good? The general snapped. They're about to annihilate us. No, the man said calmly. They're trying to understand us. And that's good how? He turned eyes sharp. Because that means they're already losing. 18 hours remained. Deep beneath layers of classified infrastructure, something ancient woke up. Not alien. Human. Buried under decades of denial, treaties, and moral arguments. A system no one wanted to admit existed. A weapon no one had ever tested at full capacity. The generals called it impossible. The scientists called it dangerous. The man called it necessary. You're insane, one official said as the activation sequence began. Probably, the man admitted. But I'm also right. You're gambling the entire planet on a theory. He shook his head. No, he said softly. I'm betting on something much simpler. And what's that? He looked up at the ceiling, as if he could see through miles of rock, up to the alien presence hanging in the void. That they've never met us before. 12 hours remained. The alien structure moved. Not aggressively. Not defensively. Curiously. It began to descend. Slowly. Deliberately. As if drawn by something it didn't understand. On Earth, satellites failed one by one. Communications flickered. Power grids trembled. And still, no attack. They're scanning us, a scientist whispered. No, the man said. He was already walking out of the room. They're coming closer. Why? He paused at the door. And for the first time, there was something darker than confidence in his expression. Something almost predatory. Because we invited them, he said. 6 hours remained. The world held its breath. The sky itself seemed heavier, like something vast and unseen was pressing down on it. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of classified Earth, a countdown ticked toward 0. Not for surrender. Not for defense. But for something far worse. Something the aliens had no concept of. Something humanity had perfected over centuries of war, betrayal, survival, and stubborn defiance. The ability to look extinction in the eye and smile back. 3 hours remained. And the man? He poured himself another drink. Hands steady. Eyes calm. Waiting. 3 seconds, he whispered. And this time, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a promise. The sky broke first. Not with fire. Not with missiles. Not even with the deafening roar anyone expected. Just a ripple. Subtle at first, almost polite. A bending of light above the clouds, like reality itself had taken a breath and decided to glance sideways. From that ripple emerged shapes. Vast, impossible, geometric, alien constructs that defied every principle of human engineering. Ships? Cities? Living weapons? No one could tell. The only certainty was that they were huge. And they were coming down fast. From a command center in Geneva to a makeshift bunker in the Arizona desert, humans watched as the invaders descended. Every military protocol triggered, every alert blared. Jets scrambled, missiles locked, orbital defenses hummed with imminent fury. But the man, the human ambassador turned battlefield maestro, just lit a cigarette and leaned back. "Your guesses are adorable," he said. "Cute little physics, cute little calculations. But you're missing the obvious." "Obvious?" a young lieutenant snapped, frustration cracking his voice. "We're staring down what could flatten continents. How is this obvious?" He exhaled smoke, watching the alien shapes shimmer as they hovered above the cities. "Because," he said slowly, almost indulgently, "they think intimidation equals victory. They've never seen humans fight without rules." And that was when the first strike came. Not from Earth. Not from humanity. From the sky itself. One of the alien constructs pulsed, sending out a shockwave of energy so massive it should have erased Chicago, New York, Paris. But it didn't. Someone, had anticipated it. Hundreds of satellites, each with experimental energy shields, flared into existence in perfect synchronization. The pulse struck them, and instead of detonating, it fractured. Reflected. Amplified. And the shockwave returned to its source. On board the alien craft, systems overloaded. Panels melted. Geometries warped. And then, with a sound humans didn't understand but felt in their bones, the alien fleet shuddered. One by one, vessels dropped out of formation, colliding with each other. And the man, sipping his drink, finally smiled. 3 seconds, people, he muttered. The generals looked at him like he had grown horns. "You mean?" "No," he interrupted. "I mean exactly what I said." They didn't understand yet. None of them did. The aliens responded with speed that made human eyes water. Ships rematerialized above cities, weapons charging like death incarnate. The pulse they had sent back should have been a distraction, a failure, a trap. But humanity had built redundancy into redundancy. Each missile, each beam, each quantum disruptor, every single one, intercepted, neutralized, turned back upon its sender. And then the humans attacked. Not in formation. Not in predictable lines. No one called this a counterstrike. It was chaos. Brilliant, terrifying chaos. Drones split into thousands, weaving around alien defenses. Cyber attacks infiltrated the construct's operating systems faster than their intelligence could adapt. And everywhere the humans struck, there was one thing they couldn't anticipate: instinct. The ambassador's plan wasn't just technology. It was psychology. It was warfare refined over millennia. It was human stubbornness turned into a weapon more precise than any laser. He walked among the generals, cigarette in hand. "See that?" he asked, nodding toward a holographic display. "That's not strategy. That's them trying to predict us. And failing. They're adapting," one scientist stammered. "They're rewriting their neural matrices." "Too slow," he interrupted. "Humans? We don't rewrite ourselves. We break them first, then explain later. The first alien vessel finally fell. It didn't explode. It didn't scream. It vanished. Systems overloaded. Gravity generators failed. And the ambassador grinned. And that's the first of many. Hours passed. Cities became battlegrounds. Streets emptied as civilians fled, or stayed, depending on their stubborn streak. Entire armies tried to coordinate conventional assaults, only to realize the humans weren't just fighting with weapons. They were fighting with improvisation, deception, audacity. Tanks leapt over craters. Pilots flew through collapsing canyons. Hackers orchestrated electromagnetic symphonies that dismantled alien shields mid-flight. Above all, the humans never panicked. Not once. The aliens, by contrast, were stunned. They had never encountered a species that could absorb annihilation and respond with more than mere resistance. They had never seen a species capable of turning fear into strategy, survival into art. And the ambassador? He became a ghost on every feed, every transmission. Wherever humans faltered, he was already there, coordinating, provoking, daring. "Do you think they realize this is just the appetizer?" he asked a general, stepping over the remnants of a shattered drone. "This is what they call patience. They'll adapt," the general shouted. "They have to." He chuckled. "Humans adapt, yes. But we also surprise. And they forgot one simple rule: never underestimate what you can't predict." The twist came when the alien high command, if it could be called that, made a decision. They tried to negotiate. A transmission cut through the chaos, addressed directly to the ambassador. "Submit. We offer ceasefire. Compliance ensures survival. You are anomalous. This conflict is inefficient." He smiled, taking a slow drag from his cigarette. The smoke curled lazily, twisting like some tiny rebellion against physics. "Anomalous?" he said, voice dripping with dark humor. "You haven't seen anything yet. Your species underestimates us." The alien message continued. "You will die. And yet," he said, eyes glinting, "here I am, drinking your fear like it's whiskey. And having a hell of a time." The first real shock came at dawn. The alien fleet, desperate to regain dominance, attempted a coordinated strike across multiple continents simultaneously. Every major city targeted at once. Humanity had expected this, but the response was unlike anything the invaders imagined. Global defense networks activated emergency protocols no one outside the ambassador's inner circle had ever seen. Satellites formed dynamic barriers, redirecting energy attacks into space. Experimental countermeasures deployed within minutes, not hours. And on the ground, human squads acted like predators in a maze of chaos, striking alien positions with surgical precision. By the end of the day, more than half of the alien constructs were disabled or destroyed. Entire alien warships had been turned into kinetic debris raining through orbit. And the ambassador? He leaned against the crumbling wall, watching the final pulse of an alien vessel evaporate into nothingness. 3 seconds, he whispered, almost lovingly. "I told you." The generals and scientists were speechless. Not just at the scale of the victory, but at the elegance. At the audacity. At the horrifying certainty that humans would never play by anyone's rules but their own. For the first time, the aliens realized something terrifying. Earth was not a planet to conquer. Earth was a species to fear. And that fear? It had only just begun. The night after the first wave of destruction, silence fell over the planet like a weight. But it wasn't the calm of surrender, it was the calm of predators surveying their prey. The ambassador didn't sleep. He never did. Instead, he walked among the shattered remnants of alien tech, running his hands over devices that defied comprehension. Human engineers, soldiers, and hackers followed him like disciples. He didn't give orders. He gave possibilities. And humanity, every last stubborn, chaotic, brilliant bit of it, ran with them. "They expected fear," he said to a young hacker whose hands still trembled from the earlier battle. "They expected panic. What they didn't expect? Us." The hacker nodded, unsure if he was inspired or terrified. What now? He smiled. Dark, slow, dangerous. Now we remind them who they're dealing with. The ambassador's plan wasn't just defense. It wasn't just survival. It was a counterstrike designed to make the galaxy remember Earth. By morning, the alien command structure had begun to fragment. Their communications were clogged, their systems confused, their ranks disoriented. They had underestimated humans' ability to think sideways, to weaponize chaos, to turn improvisation into annihilation. The ambassador gathered his generals. A holographic map of the solar system hovered above the table, showing the crippled alien fleet scattered across the void. They think this is victory, he said. They think retreat is rational. They're wrong. One general frowned. You want to follow them into deep space? He shrugged. No. I want to teach them a lesson. I want them to understand submission is a concept humans invented for others. And that's when the first of the ambushes began. The ambassador's forces struck at alien supply chains, orbital docks, and communication relays with brutal precision. Every strike was unexpected, creative, terrifying. Drones morphed into weapons carriers mid-flight. Satellites hacked alien satellites mid-orbit. Missiles didn't just strike, they hunted, adapting to each countermeasure. It was not war. It was artistry. The aliens tried to respond. They tried strategies drawn from centuries of conquest. But humans didn't fight like any species they had ever catalogued. Humans improvised. Humans predicted unpredictability. Humans turned panic into calculation and chaos into weaponry. The ambassador leaned back in his command chair, watching alien vessels explode in silent pyrotechnics across the void. They'll learn soon enough, he muttered. A lieutenant glanced nervously at him. Learn what? He smiled. Humans don't play by rules. And we don't forget who underestimates us. But the real twist wasn't in the weapons. It wasn't in the chaos. It wasn't even in the brilliance of improvisation. It was in the trap the ambassador had set before the aliens even touched Earth's atmosphere. Months, or maybe it was years, before contact, the ambassador had authorized a secret program. Hidden in plain sight across every major military, scientific, and industrial network on Earth were devices of unimaginable destructive potential. Not weapons of mass annihilation, not genocidal bombs, but something far worse. Something the aliens could not comprehend: human adaptability weaponized at scale. The ambassador called it the Mirror Protocol. Every attack, every scan, every attempt at intimidation the aliens had launched, every signal, every vector, every quantum disruption was already being observed, catalogued, and used. By the time they realized, the data had already rewritten the battlefield. Every alien offensive was turned against itself. Every strategy failed before it could succeed. It wasn't technology. It wasn't brute force. It was the human mind multiplied across networks, battles, and improvisation loops. And the aliens? They had no idea it was coming. By the time the dust cleared on the second day, the ambassador had already orchestrated something extraordinary. Entire alien squadrons had vanished from known space. Communications collapsed. Fleet cohesion evaporated. Alien leaders, if they could be called that, were scrambling, panicked, and incapable of adapting fast enough. Humanity didn't celebrate. Not yet. They couldn't afford to. The ambassador knew the galaxy wouldn't forgive mistakes. And Earth? Earth would never stop preparing. He stepped out onto a balcony overlooking a city scarred but unbroken. Fires burned in pockets, but humanity still lived, still breathed, still resisted. A child ran past him, laughing despite the ash in the air. A soldier passed, gun still smoking, eyes fierce. He lit a cigarette. The smoke curled upward, ghostly, triumphant. They thought 3 days would be enough. He muttered to no one in particular. 3 seconds, huh? That's more like it. A voice from behind him spoke softly. Ambassador, they're asking for negotiations now. He chuckled darkly, taking a drag. Negotiations? His eyes gleamed with grim humor. Do you know what they're asking for? Mercy. And we don't do mercy. No, he thought. Humanity didn't do mercy. Humanity did survival. Humanity did retaliation. Humanity did utter devastation, when provoked. And for the first time, the galaxy was about to understand exactly why humans were feared, why humans were unpredictable, and why no alien empire should ever think they could threaten Earth without consequences. The ambassador flicked ash from his cigarette, watching the horizon. They'll remember this day, he said. Not because they won, but because they lost. And they'll never underestimate us again. The alien fleets, disorganized, terrified, broken, hovered silently at the edge of the solar system. They could strike again, of course. They could try. But the ambassador knew something they didn't. Humans didn't need the first strike to win. Humans thrived in chaos. Humans survived in impossibility. And humans had patience. The galaxy had just witnessed a species that laughed at extinction and turned arrogance into annihilation. And humanity? Humanity was just getting started. The final hours passed like a heartbeat stretched across the planet. The alien fleet, battered and fractured, hung at the edge of the solar system like wounded predators too proud to flee. Communications from their side crackled sporadically, desperate, confused. Every attempt to coordinate strikes failed. Every calculation misfired. Every strategy collapsed before it could even begin. Humanity had rewritten the rules of engagement without them realizing it, and now the ambassador prepared for the final act. He walked through the streets of a scarred city, boots crunching on debris, eyes scanning the horizon. Soldiers, engineers, and civilians moved around him in a chaotic symphony. Humanity was alive, not just surviving, but thriving in defiance. Time? A young lieutenant asked, keeping pace. 0, he said. Not with panic. Not with fear. But with a calm certainty that came from knowing the predator would soon feast on arrogance. In orbit, the alien command structures were vulnerable. Their ships, designed for intimidation, lacked the flexibility to counter human unpredictability. Every vessel was a target. Every weapon was a trap. Every pulse of energy the aliens sent now became a mirror, amplified by humanity's ingenuity. From underground bunkers, satellite arrays, and orbital platforms, humanity struck, not with overwhelming firepower, but with precision. Quantum disruptors shattered guidance systems. Electromagnetic pulses scrambled neural matrices. Drones, smaller than insects, infiltrated command hubs and released viruses that the aliens had no concept of defending against. Each human attack was a question, and every alien failure an answer. You do not understand us. And then came the coup de grace. The ambassador activated the final protocol, Project Ouroboros. A web of autonomous defense systems, energy reflections, and adaptive strikes that had been lying dormant, waiting for the exact moment the alien forces believed victory was theirs. The alien fleet tried to retreat. Systems overloaded. Ships collided in orbit, vaporizing entire squadrons. Structures folded inward, imploding in on themselves. Signals became noise. Their intelligence matrices fractured. The fleet that had given Earth 3 days to surrender was now nothing more than space debris, drifting helplessly toward oblivion. On the ground, humanity cheered. But the ambassador didn't. He lit a cigarette, smoke curling upward in the soft dawn light. Around him, soldiers laughed, cried, embraced, but he only smiled faintly. They thought they could scare us, he said quietly. They thought 3 days would be enough to bend the human spirit. And yet, here we are. A young soldier approached, awestruck. They're gone, all of them? He exhaled slowly, eyes cold and deliberate. Gone? He murmured. No. They'll be back. Always will be. But they'll remember this. They'll remember what happens when they underestimate humans. And that, he knew, was the cruelest weapon of all. The moral of the galaxy's first contact was not mercy. Not negotiation. Not diplomacy. It was fear tempered with respect, the kind that comes from staring into the abyss and laughing. Humanity had survived because they refused to follow the rules aliens thought universal. Humanity had triumphed because they turned arrogance into a weapon. The ambassador looked up at the stars, seeing the wreckage of alien constructs fading into the void. He didn't feel pride. He felt anticipation. For the next contact. The next threat. The next time some empire believed they could threaten Earth. 3 seconds, he whispered to the wind. That's all it takes. Always has been. Always will be. Around him, humanity rebuilt. Wounded cities became fortresses. Survivors became soldiers. Scientists became strategists. And the galaxy, wherever it had eyes, would learn the truth. Humans were chaos incarnate. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were unstoppable. And any species foolish enough to underestimate them would pay for every miscalculation with everything they had. The ambassador took a final drag of his cigarette, flicking the ash into the rubble-strewn street. The sun rose over a battered but unbroken earth, bathing the planet in light. And as the smoke drifted upward, one thing was certain. The galaxy had learned its first lesson about humanity. Never underestimate Earth. And humanity? Humanity smiled. Because they were just getting started.